All right, so the vehicle's jacked up and safely on the jack stand. We'll start by taking the wheel off. And the lugs are a 24 millimeter. And right off the bat, I noticed the brake pads are just about shot. They're pretty close to wearing out this rotor. There's a little bit of wear on it, but it should be fine. Next, we'll just go ahead and take the caliper off. There's just two bolts here. There's one on top, and then one right there. And that's just a 3/8 Allen wrench. And what I like to do is I like to hang the caliper up with zip ties just right on the upper control arm there. Works pretty good and you don't put any stress on your brake line. Just like that. The next thing I'm going to do is remove the axle nut, and the size of that is an 1.11" or a 43 millimeter. I bought this socket specifically for taking off these axle nuts on these Dodge Rams. I ordered it off Amazon. I can't remember what I paid for it, probably 20-30 bucks, but it's definitely worth it. I've used it a lot. And we're just gonna use it on the Milwaukee. It's a 1/2" anvil size, so we'll just put this on the Milwaukee and it should be able to take it off no problem. It hasn't failed me yet. If you do not have a Milwaukee or a big impact, you're gonna have to put a bar through your wheel studs and use a big breaker bar and probably a big pipe. And we also got to take out that cotter pin before we start actually loosening this up, so let's do that next. It actually came a lot easier than I thought. That's what she said. All right, moment of truth. Will the Milwaukee 1/2" impact take off this axle nut? We'll find out right now. That is just flipping impressive. If you don't have one of these, get one. So the next thing we're going to do is remove the 4 bolts that actually hold the hub to the spindle, and they are located right behind the hub. There's one on the bottom there, and there's one above it. And then same goes on the other side. There's one over there, if you can see it. Right there, and then on top. So 4 bolts, pretty easy. And in order to get those, you're gonna need a 12.14 millimeter socket. And just for better access, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the wheel all the way to the right and get the 2 on this side, and then we'll go all the way to the left and get the 2 on that side, just to make it easier for us. And guys, these bolts are normally pretty in there, so I'm going to be using this pipe on the end of my ratchet to get more leverage, and they should break free. And yes, I am using a 3/8 drive ratchet because unfortunately I don't have a 12.14 millimeter in 1/2". All my sockets are 6-point. There it goes. So we got these 2 off this side. We're going to go ahead and turn the wheel the other way so I can get the other 2. I think you guys know what we're doing here, so I'll just go ahead and do that off camera to speed things up a little bit. Next, what I want to do is take off this bracket that's holding our ABS line, and then I'll just take off these clamps so we have some play, so when I take the hub off, I'm not pulling on anything, and we can just set it aside. Alright, so I got my bracket off, and I took the clamp off our brake line. If you are replacing your wheel bearing, I'd just go with the whole hub assembly, which I think most people do. But if you're replacing your wheel bearing and you're putting a new hub assembly on, you're going to want to take this line off completely. There's a bolt right there that holds on a bracket, and just keep following the line. It's clamped right there. And then there's another bolt right there. And then if you go open the hood on the pickup on the inside of the fender well, you'll see where it comes up, and there's a harness right there where you just unplug it right off the fender, and you can pull that whole wire down if you are replacing the wheel bearing, which I did do on that side. But on this side, this wheel bearing's good. We're gonna leave it alone. All right, so at this point, our hub is ready to come off. We got our 4 bolts out from the back. We got our axle nut off. We got our ABS line loose. So this thing is ready to come out. But this next part in this video is really important. It'll save you 2 hours trying to beat the hell out of this thing to get it off, because it is rusted in there, it's pressed in there, it's really tough. So with that being said, how are we going to get this off without beating the hell out of it or heating it up with a torch? I'll tell you. We're gonna be using the vehicle's power steering system to press the hub right off. So I'll show you how we're gonna do that. So the first thing we wanna do is grab one of the 4 bolts that we just took out from the back of the hub. And we're gonna go ahead and thread it on the top hole towards the back. And you wanna thread it about 1 inch, just so it's not touching the spindle. It's got maybe 1/2 inch of space. And then we're gonna wanna grab a 1/2 inch extension, and basically we're gonna lodge it from the top of the bolt head to the frame, and then we'll steer the wheels to the right, and it should pop it right out. So now I have my extension in position right there, and then if you can see that, it's resting right on top of that bolt head. Alright guys, so it turns out we got a couple dead batteries here in the pickup, so as we wait for the batteries to charge up, I just want to go ahead and remind you guys to hit the subscribe button. I got a lot of videos soon to be coming out, got a lot of projects going on. I'm just about done sanding and doing body work to my 98.5 24 valve Cummins, and we're going to be putting a fresh coat of paint on it here pretty quick. And then I also recently bought a 95 12 valve, and I really want to do a Cummins swap into something here pretty soon. So guys, make sure you subscribe and don't miss out on any of that. Alright, so this one's pretty well in there. I did get it a little bit, but it's still caught up. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it on this bottom bolt hole instead. And then that way, you should be able to get it now. You can see right there, it's split off the top, but we're still kind of hung up in the bottom. Make sure you pay attention to how your ABS line routes in your hub. You can kind of see how it works. You want to make sure when you put your hub back on that your ABS line is facing towards the top. That's really important, and it'll save you a couple headaches of taking this baby off and putting it back on if you put it in wrong. My axle wants to come out with it. And then our axle can just come right out. Next we'll take the tie rod off. Get the cotter pin out first. And using a 21mm, we'll go ahead and zip it off real quick. Next we'll take the nut off our upper ball joint. Well, looks like I broke my cotter pin, but that's fine. My Milwaukee should be able to zip it right off even with the cotter pin through it still. So just hammer it so my socket can fit on it, and I think the Milwaukee will be able to shear that cotter pin right off. That is impressive. I'll just show you guys. The Milwaukee just seared that cotter pin right off. Didn't even phase it. And then now we'll get our lower ball joint nut off, and then we'll take the spindle off. And this one's 1 5/16" I found work. I'm going to use my cheater bar. Oh, that one's tough. So we got both our nuts off. At this point, we get to have a little bit of fun with the hammer. You can just beat it right here and right there, and it'll just fall right out. I'll show you. Just like that, guys.